Hello and welcome to the Weeball Podcast. Tyler and I are back with another set of mock drafts for your mock draft Monday. This time we are going to the East, our divisions, but we're not doing our own teams. We're going to switch teams. Just a little precursor. Tyler, how we doing, my friend? It's been a busy week for us and an even busier one coming up.
Yeah, extremely busy and extremely fun. Obviously, like you said, we've got these mock drafts coming up. I am a little afraid of what you could have potentially done to my Miami Dolphins, but I'm going to get you back for the Giants. So we'll see what happens. There are some guys that I know you're going to like, some guys you might not like as much, but either way, we've got 8 teams mocks coming right up. Going to be a fun one.
Listen, there's not much I can do with the Dolphins because you did, in fact, trade for Jalen Ramsey, and now you have basically no picks. So it did make my life a little bit harder. I only had 2 selections because these are all 5-round mocks. Just a reminder for everyone. Crazy trade for the Dolphins. Absolutely fleeced them. $20 million guaranteed is kind of crazy because Jalen Ramsey is kind of, heading downwards. But let's get right into it. Do we want to go Dolphins first? Do you want to go first with my Giants? How we want to do this, Tyler?
I figured we can probably run through the NFC East first. And
Perfect.
doing that, I will start with your team, the New York Giants,
There
with
we
the first pick, 25 overall. Sorry, it shows up as 26 here, but it is 25 overall. I took Emmanuel Forbes. I figured that you guys are going to need, cornerback help, and
Desperately.
who better at 26? The options were limited. There wasn't a receiver that I really felt like was the guy, and I know that they need a receiver, so I actually addressed that later on. At 58, I ended up taking an offensive guard. I figured, keep the line depth going. If you're going to be a team that's going to be successful year over year, you need to keep Daniel Jones protected. I took Steve Avila out of TCU at guard at 58. Up next, I figured, you're not going after a long-term quarterback solution with Daniel Jones. You might as well take somebody who can sit behind him, spot start if you need. I took him for another team in a different mock, but I'm taking him here at 90. It's Hendon Hooker.
This is the dumbest thing I've ever
not?
heard.
Why not? Let him sit. Let him develop
Let
for
him
a few
sit for
years.
what? He's 26.
If it's 2 years down the road and you really opt out of that Daniel Jones deal like they're kind of expecting you to do, because there is that out after a couple of years, who knows? Maybe you could use Hendon Hooker. Up next, pick 101. I figured here, I'm going to get you a big receiver. It's Rashee Rice out of SMU. I mean, you just need more size at receiver. Kenny Golladay was obviously not the answer. And going out and getting somebody who can do a lot of the similar things you wanted Golladay to do, like make those jump ball contested catches. Rashee Rice can do that kind of stuff. Figured at 101, the potential's high. Why not? 129, I took another running back. We don't know the future on Matt Breida there. You're going to need somebody behind Saquon. I took Kenny McIntosh out of Georgia. I figured it would be a fun fit. I know that you're a fan, so, getting somebody that could, work with Saquon when Saquon is either, maybe hurt or potentially just sitting, get somebody who can come off the bench there. At 162.
Wow. Okay. Just saying Saquon's going to get hurt. I'm offended.
Whoa. I'm just saying that there's a track record. I'm not saying that he is going to get hurt. At 162, I took a linebacker. I figured you could use another one. Why not? I took Nick Herbig out of Wisconsin. Why not? Just another linebacker. Apparently you're a fan. Why not? You need more depth on defense. That's really how this team was built last year was, the offense was good enough to keep that defense winning games. And last but not least, I figured let's go out and just get another weapon because why not? And he had a great combine. It's Old Dominion Zach Kuntz. I figured go out and get another tight end.
Exactly. We need a tight end.
Pair somebody up with Daniel Bellinger and just get somebody who is, really athletic. His RAS score was extremely high. He had a great combine, really one of the risers from that week in Indianapolis. So that's about it. I figured I kept it kind of even. A lot of offense, a lot of defense. Would love to hear your thoughts.
Horrible. Hendon Hooker completely makes everyone else null and void. Hendon Hooker is, in fact, the exact same age as Daniel Jones. And has more long-term injuries than Daniel Jones. So he's basically worse than Daniel Jones in every way. But, that's all right. It's whatever. I liked every other pick. You replace him with, I don't know, a backup safety because Julian Love might be out of the door. You know, could have been a move, but I nonetheless I like every other pick. Big Nick Herbig and Kenny McIntosh fan. So those two picks made me happy. The rest of them, they're all right. I'm a big Emmanuel Forbes guy too.
Everybody knows that doing prospect interviews, talking on a podcast 2-3 times a week, it comes with a necessary confidence that you have to have. And one thing that really improves confidence is the new and improved Performance Package 4.0 by Manscaped. It has arrived, and oh man, is it a game changer. Inside this package, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold all of these goodies. First off, the Lawnmower 4.0. This trimmer is the future of grooming and, dare I say, the greatest ball trimmer ever. I am blown away by the performance and craftsmanship of this trimmer. Their 4th generation trimmer offers cutting edge ceramic blade to help reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin safe technology. Their Lawnmower 4.0 is waterproof and also has a 4000K LED spotlight so you can get a more precise shave. Because this trimmer is waterproof, you can say goodbye to the mess on the bathroom floor. If you thought that was good, but want to take your grooming even further to the next level, the Performance Package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker ears and nose hair trimmer. The Weed Whacker is also waterproof and provides proprietary skin-safe technology, which helps reduce nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate nose holes. The Crop Preserver below the waist deodorant and Crop Reviver below the waist toner will change the way you approach your daily hygiene routine. Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts in this Performance Package 4.0, the boxers and the shed travel bag. Bring your comfort in boxers to another level. It's time to take care of yourself. Go to manscaped.com and get 20% off with code WEBALL. That is WEBALL, WEBALL. Make sure to use it on your next purchase with Manscaped for 20% off.
Moving right along, I got to pick for the Washington Commanders, and my philosophy with all of these drafts for my rivals was what makes them scarier to play? What makes them like I don't want to play them? I always am so happy when I see Washington on the schedule because one, I know it's going to be a good game. Those games are always fun, and two, we normally win. So this is what would make them scarier for the Giants. That's how I went about this. 16, Broderick Jones. We took him in. You took him in a mock draft last time. Broderick Jones is in fact a dog, Georgia Bulldog that is. But he's a really good player. He's just a good football player. He's a good tackle, and they could definitely use some O-line help. It's been a pretty big weakness, even without a quarterback. Your horrible quarterback still has to stand up straight if you want him to win you games. And hopefully Broderick can help Sam Howell stand up straight. Next at 48, or I guess 47, because the forfeited pick, it's a whole thing. Tyreek Stevenson from Miami. We got to watch him down at the Mobile in the Senior Bowl. He's a dog. He picked up a bit of a hit, and instead of going to the trainer, he walked over to his agent and was like, "Well, I'm going to keep going." And we were like, "This guy's just go to the trainer, dog. Like, what are you doing?" But he really just doesn't care. He'll play football whenever he wants to play football, and I think he's a good addition for them. He's a different type of corner than they currently have on the roster. He's much more of a bruiser, basically.
Yeah, he's an exciting, physical player, and we
Yes.
noticed that down in Mobile, especially, I talked to him. That was fun. The dude, he carries a confidence about him that not a lot of players do, and you need to do it at corner.
And he's built, dude. That's something that they don't have. Like, they don't have any physically imposing corners who I'm afraid of Hodgins or Slayton going up against. Like, not afraid of them. But Tyreek would be, a scarier corner. And moving on to their linebacking core, they have Davis, but that's really it. Like, they're not doing much else in the linebacking core. And whenever Washington's good, they have good linebackers. So I took Henry To'oTo'o. Love Henry. He's just a good football player. He's a tackle machine. And where Davis is this athletic freak who can kind of he has his moments. Henry is very straight line. Like, he's going to be the same player all the time. And I think that balance is going to be huge for helping that defense out and will take some of the pressure off their D line to always be, this top end group that they've been the last few years. And then I went with a guy who legitimately might have that dog in him. Andrew Voorhees tears an ACL, still puts up the highest bench number at the combine with one leg on the ground. Ridiculous. And I know it might be a little high at 118 because he did just tear his ACL. I don't care. That O-line gets so much better with Jones and Voorhees. Like, it just instantly is better.
Also, this isn't a team that you're looking at as competing
No,
necessarily
they have
next
Sam
year.
Howell at quarterback.
So you might be getting a value knowing that you can, Voorhees
Yeah.
could have gone day 2 potentially, and now he's sitting down the line for you as a day 3 pick, somebody you didn't spend much on, but is probably going to come back stronger than ever when you give him the time to develop and fix, work on himself in the injury.
Bingo. And speaking of develop, KJ Henry, I know he's a senior, like he was a senior, so there's not like time to develop. It's not like he's this, true junior. But he has all of the raw talent in the world. He just needs to put it all together. That Clemson D line is a lot of fun, and they always put out dogs. So I just think at 152, the value's there to get an edge because their edges are never really on the field. Chase Young probably starting to look like a little bit of a bust. I'm not going to put that label on him, but he's starting to get to that point. So, I just think it's good value. And that's really all you can ask for, the pick like 151. So, yeah, that is what I have for the Washington Commanders.
Definitely strong. We move on here to the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, the biggest market potentially in sports, one of the richest teams in sports, and a team that, keeps playing on the brink of true contention, but could use some help. And I figured I would give them that, especially on defense in these first couple rounds. With the first pick at pick 26, I took Cam Smith, the corner out of South Carolina. I figured, you've got Trayvon Diggs on one side, who really has gone from just a ball hawk to somebody who you look at as an above average cover guy, which was something that a lot of people did not think he could do. The problem was nobody was throwing at Diggs because they were throwing at everybody else. And one way to fix that is you go out and you get somebody who is more technically refined, and that's something that you're looking for from Cam Smith. At 58 actually, I took a linebacker. I took Trenton Simpson. I figured just keep shoring up. He fell that far. I was like, you know what? I'll take the pick. You might as well. At this point, the linebacker class is one of the more unknowns in this draft. We're not sure what teams are going to think of a lot of these guys. So there could be guys that slip. And I figured keep adding on to, those linebackers. Leighton Vander Esch continues to get older. His production slips a little bit. Go out and get somebody else. At 91, I took somebody that it just feels like a Jerry Jones pick. They like those exciting players, no matter the size. And although Tank Dell is small, I figured he could be a quintessential Cowboy. He is, like I said, no matter the size, he's an A1 alpha dog, man. And that is somebody who you're going to want in that receiving room. Just go out and get more guys who you feel like you're confident in one-on-one matchups. Already got CeeDee Lamb. Why not add somebody else in the slot who you could, rely on? Up next, 130. Another guy who fell. I felt like this was really good value. We obviously don't know if he'll be there come draft night, but I took Ali Gay. I figured, go out, get an edge. The thing on defense is you just got to keep improving. Obviously, we saw their offense was not great down the stretch in that 49ers game, but that's something that can be fixed if you're able to hold your opponents, especially on the ground and through the air, just keep them from scoring. And then you have an offense that when Dak is healthy, he puts up points. So I just kept addressing the defense. My next 2 picks were also defense. I took another corner. I figured you need more depth. And Mekhi Blackman was somebody that we loved down in Mobile. Him and Jaden Reed were going at it. Jaden Reed said that was his toughest matchup, and Jaden Reed was eating in Mobile. So you got to listen to a guy like that. And up next, defensive lineman out of Oklahoma State, I took Tyler Lacey. Why not go out, just keep improving those pipelines, keep getting defensive linemen. And with my last pick, I figured you might be losing Dalton Schultz, Who knows if you're going to be getting a free agent? I took an Alabama guy. I took Cam Latu with my last pick. I
Oh,
figured
he's such a cowboy.
you
He's
go
such a
out,
cowboy.
you take another tight end. They seem to have these guys who can come in, kind of produce a little bit. We saw some nice catches from Hendershot down the stretch last year, but if Dalton Schultz isn't a cowboy, you're going to need somebody who can produce, and Latu might be that guy.
Just a reminder, Cam Latu has not been a tight end for very long. He was an edge coming into Alabama and switched over in his sophomore year. Now he's a senior who he's a dog. He puts up numbers. Like, that's what he does. So that's a really good pick for them. But we're gonna move on to the Super Bowl losers, the Philadelphia Eagles. Oh, it brings joy for me to say that, not have to call them champions. But they do, in fact, have the 10th overall pick because the Saints are stupid. Just straight up. That's really all I can say about that. And they're going to go with a Penn State guy, Joey Porter. The other two corners were already off the board, and they desperately are going to need corner help. They're getting rid of Bradbury. They're getting rid of CJ. So, like, they're going to need corner help. And their defense is going to start to fall apart pretty quickly here if they can't recoup some of those losses, find some value. They're losing a whole bunch of guys on defense. Like, they're just going to lose them because there's not enough money to go around.
And that defense is very much secondary oriented. We saw it last year. Slay, Bradbury were the driving force along with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to be like what made their defensive front eat like it did was the fact that quarterbacks had to hold on to the ball. So going out and getting somebody who could potentially replace Bradbury, who won't be there very long,
might even have to replace Slay. Like, very Slay's on the trade block. So it's an interesting situation going on in Philly, and I don't really know what they're going to do about it. But we move, and with the 30th pick, I took Anton Harrison. And I know what people are going to say. Why are they taking O-line help? We talked about this in our mock draft 1.0. You have to keep developing that O-line. Your two best O-linemen are getting older in Lane Johnson and Travis Kelce. They might not be around for very much longer. Then you have Landon Dickerson, who's a dog. But he's going to move to center when Kelce's gone. Like, that's just what's going to happen.
And the quickest path to sustaining a potential dynasty and building a perpetual winner is a team that is strong on both fronts. And they drafted a defensive tackle last year when they didn't need one. Jordan Davis wasn't somebody that a lot of people viewed as a need for the Eagles, and they went out and they addressed it because they're like,
and he didn't even play this year.
The road, he might be somebody who we look to, even though we're trying to win a Super Bowl right now. We want to win multiple. So I definitely understand, continuing to build the trench pipeline.
It's just something that they've been good at, and I feel like it's something that's going to continue here. Moving on, I did pick a running back. I know people are mocking them with, Robinson and Gibbs and stuff like that. I think they're going to wait a little bit, and they're going to get a guy who's an interesting case, and that is Zach Evans. He was at TCU. He was good at TCU. He got the move to Ole Miss, Mississippi, whatever you want to call it, and he came in, and everyone was like, this guy's going to be the guy, and he's going to help Jackson Dart go to the next level type thing. And that is not what happened. A true freshman came in, and after an injury to Zach Evans, kind of stole the show and became the leading rusher in the SEC, I believe. So Evans hasn't gotten much talk this year, even though he is like he's probably a lot higher on my board than a lot of people's boards. So I went with him at 63. And then lastly, continuing to build that secondary. He's not a one-of-one to CJ, but I think he can fill that role, and he's an athletic grinder type of guy, and that is Sidney Brown out of Illinois. We know he's an athlete. He showed it at the combine. We know he's a good football player. He showed it in Mobile. Every opportunity he's had to improve his draft stock, he has taken and he has run with. I think he probably goes higher than 94 or whatever. Like, I think he goes higher than that, but he's here and he's a perfect fit. And this makes the Eagles extremely scary to go against, scarier than they already are.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's one of the more versatile players in the draft. And they just, they're on the verge of losing Gardner Johnson. And you go out and you replace him with somebody who can do a lot of the same things. A comp that, that Brown keeps getting is Talanoa Ufanga. And a lot of 49ers fans are looking at, they're looking at scenarios in which he could go to another 49ers-esque system or teams that play their back end in that kind of way and move around their safeties. That's exactly what Philadelphia does. They like moving their guys around. That's why CJ was so good there. So definitely going out and getting another safety would be perfect. I believe I'm on now with my first AFC East team. That would be the New England Patriots. And in a similar fashion to Luke, I made sure that the way that I drafted this was how would I be more scared to go up against these teams? It wasn't necessarily the perfect way I think these teams would draft, but I believe
this is
that
us fixing their franchise. They're
for sure. Exactly. These are guys that we like. And, moving on to the New England Patriots, I took some athletic freaks and some guys who are also technically refined in specific areas. First off, pick 14, I figured go out and address your biggest need. You just fixed your, offensive coordinator issue. You went out and you brought in Bill O'Brien again. Why not? You now need weapons. And who's a good weapon in this class? We talked about him in the receiver preview episode. Jordan Addison. I think that could be a fun pairing with Mac Jones, somebody who creates space. And Mac Jones is very good at throwing to space and anticipating those kind of windows. Why not go out and get him somebody who can be a number one receiver? Up next, I figured they already got Matthew Judon, but let's just keep filtering in those edges. Like we said, we like to build pipelines around here. And I went out and got somebody that, you look at Judon as the more complete player, but getting someone across from him that might be really good at one thing going up against those second best tackles on teams, it's Isaiah Foskey. We know that the long arm is absolutely unstoppable. Pairing him with somebody like Judon could allow him to potentially, while he learns more moves, continue to produce really early in his NFL career. More of a pass rush specialist, but he can move around. I think his versatility could work well in New England. Up next, I took two athletic freaks here. The first one that I'm going to address is a cornerback. I figured they might be losing Jonathan Jones, and they might want to bring in somebody who can, proven play on the outside. They love those athletic freaks, and I certainly took one in Julius Brents. I think that, getting somebody like that who can play physical, especially in that system, he might get burned a few times, but you're going to have fun watching Julius Brents, especially if he became a Patriot in a man-heavy system. Up next, they just lost Devin McCourty, and I know this is not the coverage safety you're looking for to replace a guy like that who just retired, but you go out and you get somebody fun, and that was kind of my goal here, was to just get guys who are imposing. You can move around. We've seen what they've done with guys like Jabril Peppers. Let's go get a guy who's a lot bigger than that.
Did JL play this year?
I don't know if he necessarily played this year, but I know that in the past they like to move him around. I'm pretty sure he did. Up next, I took JL Skinner. That's who I was getting to.
Nice.
I think that just getting somebody who is intimidating. I was picking guys that, as a Dolphins fan, I believed would just scare me. And he's a guy.
I'm gonna be honest.
He's scary. He is an intimidating dude, and that's what they like to do. Up next, pick 118. I had to do it. He is a Patriot. We said it in Mobile all week. I picked another secondary player, and we know who it is. I took Riley Moss. I figured, one of the more athletically strong corners. We saw that in Indianapolis and in Mobile.
He's a clown, bro.
He is an immediate contributor on special teams. Luke had an interview with him. If you haven't seen it, please go check it out. It's hilarious.
He's a pit bull, my boy.
However,
he's so funny, bro.
However, it's somebody who can contribute on special teams right away, and we know how much they value that in New England. Last pick, I figured, just go get a nice versatile guy on the offensive line, continue to improve the depth. It was Jarrett Patterson. I think that was more, one of the side picks in this draft, while really we went out, we improved our defense, and we got Mac Jones, a number one receiver to throw to.
I really like that draft. I think it's got a lot of my guys in it. It's got just a lot of dogs in it, really, especially the pit bull, my boy. That Riley Moss video is hilarious. I've posted a few times. If you just search my @ and then Riley Moss, that video will come up probably 3 or 4 times. Hilarious. and he continued to be a clown at the combine. But moving on to Tyler's Miami Dolphins. I only had 2 picks to work with because obviously tampering, trades. You really made my life harder this year, Miami, but I'm going to fix your franchise and finally make you a Super Bowl contender. That's what these 2 picks are going to do. Not Jalen Ramsey, not Bradley Chubb. These 2 picks that I'm about to make are going to win you a Super Bowl with Tua Tagovailoa.
All right, I need to see it because I'm 100% prepared. I need to see what could change our franchise.
Drum roll, please. At pick 51, Tucker Kraft.
I honestly, I can address this right here. I know it's your pick, but that's like exactly a position we needed at tight end. And like,
really, almost like you don't have any on the roster.
We just traded one away in Hunter Long. Like we addressed earlier, Jalen Ramsey trade was absolutely huge news today. Miami goes out and they get another big-time corner to pair with Xavier Howard, and they've just decided they're going to go for that stars and scrubs kind of roster that won a championship in Los Angeles. Why not go get one of their players? But back to this draft, I think that, going out and getting a tight end, especially one who can do a little bit of everything, is very important.
Tucker Kraft is a blue-collar player, which I feel like is obvious when you go to South Dakota State, but he's a blue-collar guy. He's going to put in the work every day. He's going to block. He's going to try his best to be a great catching tight end. Some guys don't try to block when they're Miami Dolphin tight ends. Hopefully that guy's a giant. But Mike Gesicki it's not really his thing. I'm going to be honest. Jersey guy, he's out there. He's being flashy. He'll do whatever he can to get the football, except for block. So Tucker Kraft will do the things that Mike Gesicki won't. And moving on, I got a guy who's just a freak. He's just a freak. And that man would be the one and only Blake Freeland. Just get you guys O-line help. Keep Tua upright. I don't need his brain getting any more concussions. Tua's he's my guy, so I can't see him get hurt anymore, and I need him to stay upright, and that's what Blake Freeland will do because he's a mauler. He's gonna hit people like what he does.
That's exactly what Miami needs. They've been very bad at right tackle and left guard specifically. So getting somebody who has that kind of versatility, you said earlier that you think that he could play guard at the next level. I think that that's exactly what you could need, and especially if he could develop into a good tackle down the road. They just need to improve their running game because Tua was not bad last year. When you were able to keep him protected, they were able to have a top passing attack in the league. It was their running game that really did not help them salt away any leads late in games. A lot of games became closer than they needed to be because Miami could not run the ball. So getting somebody who at least if they're not going to be a great technical pass protector early, can go out and just run through people, it's kind of what you need. All right, moving on to my final AFC East team, my bitter rivals, the New York Jets. Obviously, like I said before, the goal is to make them as scary as possible, and I felt that I really did that. Obviously, some of these picks could be going to Green Bay in an Aaron Rodgers trade, but we don't know if that's really happening yet. So we acted as if it has not happened. And with my first pick, the 13th overall pick, I took Peter Skoronski out of Northwestern. We don't know the real situation with Mekhi Becton. George Fant is like a million years old, and they're going to need another offensive tackle at some point. They want to be able to run the ball. Go get somebody who showed that he's probably the most technically proficient offensive lineman in this class. Up next, I took a linebacker. I believe I've taken him for another team, but if he falls to 44, it's an absolute steal. I took Jack Campbell. I figured, CJ Mosley, obviously not the guy that you're like really hoping for down the stretch, especially with this team that you're hoping to be ascending. And teams with 49ers defenses rely on linebackers. We see how the 49ers operate with Fred Warner. I figure let's go out and get this team somebody who can play coverage and play a lot of different spots. And that was the goal of my next pick as well. Not a linebacker, but somebody who can play a lot of different spots. I believe Luke picked them earlier, but I think this fit is just too perfect. They already traded for Chuck Clark. Rumor is on the street they're going to want another safety. I took Sidney Brown with the 3rd round pick for the Jets. I think, again, another perfect fit. We just talked about how 49ers defenses would love a guy like Sidney Brown, especially with the way that Talanoa Hufanga was maximized in for San Francisco. go out and get a guy who can play a similar role. Up next, 4th-round pick. I figured you might be losing Corey Davis this offseason. And that means that you're going to need a big body receiver. And there's a big body receiver in this class. There aren't many, but somebody who was there in the 4th round at pick 113. And I figured can fit that kind of role, especially if you're going to use him, somewhat often, is A.T. Perry. I mean, people had him. He was really highly touted coming into the season. A lot of people saw the measurables were great, but a lot of the athleticism and stuff was not exactly where they wanted it to be. But at the same time, you're getting a guy who just has, freakish traits and freakish things that you can't teach. So going out and getting someone like him, at the very least at his size, he should be able to be a good blocker, which is something that, a San Francisco type offense or whatever they're going to be running with Nathaniel Hackett, something necessary. Last pick, I figured, they just re-signed Quincy Williams. They're looking to re-sign Quinnen Williams. And I figured, let's just go get another rotational guy just in case. I got Byron Young at Alabama. I figured going out and getting another, defensive lineman, somebody who you can just keep rotating in there. The whole idea with these schemes is that they just want to rotate bodies up front and they don't want a big drop off. So being able to go out, spend big money on, Quinnen Williams, hopefully to bring him back, and then have somebody that you hope can just be a stalwart alongside him. I figured Byron Young has a high enough ceiling and honestly a high enough floor that 145 might be a steal.
Yeah, I'm a big Byron Young guy. We went over this, I believe, last time. I'm big on both Byron Youngs. Great year to be named Byron Young. But it's, the Jets are an interesting case because things are probably going to change with them. But if they don't, and they're already being like, hey, we need to compete now, what's the move? Are they going to try and get Lamar? Like, what is the real move there if Aaron Rodgers falls through? It's an interesting situation in New York, and it feels like it always is with both the Giants and the Jets. Moving right along, I have the Buffalo Bills, and they're a team that they are close to missing their Super Bowl window, it feels like. They're losing Poyer and Edmonds. So I'm going out, and I'm replacing those guys. First up with the 26th pick, Antonio Johnson from Texas A&M. It's a little high for him, but it's a need, and I think he's a good enough player to come in and play right away.
And they did draft Kyrie Elam, who was somebody that, not a lot of people necessarily had going that high, and they drafted him pretty high. So they want to go out and replace those secondary players.
They know it's a necessity. And I think that, especially because you're losing a guy like Poyer, who's a leader in the locker room, who's, a big presence throughout really the NFL. Like, everybody knows who Jordan Poyer is. I think they have to get someone who could come in and is going to be flashing and is going to play really well. And I think Antonio Johnson is that guy. Moving right along to pick number 58. This is a guy who was at the Senior Bowl. I went with Henley from Washington State, linebacker who's a freakish athlete, comes right in and can take over the Edmonds role. He's smart and he's a good athlete. That's really all you're looking for.
And he can pass cover, especially they like to move their linebackers around, and of course with Edmonds, who is likely gone, they're going to need somebody who can go out and cover guys over the middle, and that's exactly what Henley's going to come in there and try to do.
It's just a good pick. Like, he's just another guy who's a good football player and a great athlete, which is something we talked about last time on this, and I think he makes them better. Next up. Again, this might be a little high, but I think it's worth it. I'm going with Tyler Scott at pick number 90. I think Tyler Scott is a good football player. He fast.
Can fly.
He has good hands. For his speed, he doesn't look like a fluid route runner because he's always going 100%. But he is a good route runner if you really look at his feet and his hands closely. So I think that, it's just – Gabe Davis isn't a number 2 wide receiver. He's a number 3 wide receiver. I'm just going to be honest with you. That's my personal opinion. I think they tried to force him to be a wide receiver too, and it clearly did not work. And the whole team struggled because of it. And I think getting a guy.
Yeah. And You were saying getting a guy. Sorry, I totally cut you off there. But just like quickly touching on what like you're looking at Gabe Davis kind of as a guy who with the Bills was largely a deep threat. And obviously that's something that Scott can do. Like we said, he can absolutely fly. But I think Scott is one of those guys that like they were kind of lacking last year, which is why they took so many deep shots on third downs, is because of the fact that they didn't have a guy that you can, go throw the ball to over the middle. Like we thought Isaiah McKenzie was going to be that. Really wasn't great. They brought back Cole Beasley because they were so worried about that slot position. Going out and getting somebody who can kind of just catch the ball over the middle and make something happen. It's exactly what Tyler Scott is.
And giving Josh Allen something that's easy and reliable is going to be huge because this guy, he likes throwing the ball down the field, but he's going to get sick of chucking the ball up on every third down. Like you need to put that team in good situations. He's going to get tired of taking these hits. He's going to get tired of just chucking the ball on third down. It's going to happen. You have to try and make life easier for Josh Allen the best you can. And I think Tyler Scott does that. Another guy who does that is Jackson Kirkland out of Washington. He isn't going to be plug and play necessarily, but if you develop him correctly, he's going to be able to, be a reliable piece for Josh Allen for a very long time. And you have time to kind of bring him along. You're going to want him to play sooner rather than later, but it's not a necessity that he plays right away. This is a 4th round pick, so you're not banking on him playing right away. But I think he has traits. I think he can very much be a good football player for a very long time if he is given, the tools that he needs. And I think the Bills are a good spot for that. And lastly, I just think they need tight end depth, man. It's Dawson Knox or nobody out there right now. And if you're going to be playing in Buffalo in the winter, you need some tight ends. You need some big bodies who are going to be able to make some things happen. And I think Will Mallory's that guy. I know me and you are a little bit higher on him than the consensus. And I think that's reflected here as him going at 137. But he's a good football player. And I know he was in a bad offense and had to catch footballs from TVD. He's just another guy, really. Like he's a need.
And it's pick your flavor for tight ends like this draft cycle. They've just you got freakish guys. You've got guys that can block. You've got guys that can go run routes. And, I think Mallory kind of fits that like older school tight end model where you can kind of just do like a little bit of everything. Nothing that you look at as extremely well, but you already have a guy who runs routes and is a great pass catcher in Dawson Knox.
You just need a well-rounded tight end.
The best thing you can have as a second tight end is somebody who can be a high floor player because of the fact that he can immediately come in there and do things at an average to above average level. And that's exactly what Mallory is.
That is going to be it for ya boys. We do have an episode coming to you at the end of the week. Another top 5 little teaser. There's, some 2 first-round guys in this position, and that's it. So get some guesses in the comments. In my opinion, that is. I don't know about you, Tyler, but I got 2 first-round guys. Get some guesses in the comments. What do you think we will be ranking next week? That is it for the We Ball podcast. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, do all those good things. Leave a rating if you're on Spotify. 5 stars is preferred, but whatever you have to say it with your chest. We don't care. We love, the ratings and all that. But that is it for the We Ball podcast. We will see you later this week.